Tell me if this sounds familiar. You're reading a book and everything's peachy. You're having a great time. You're in love with the world, with the characters. The prose is flowing. And then she appears. It's the angry YA protagonist. And she's so angry. Which is making you angry. And you throw away the book and you never pick it up again. If that sounds familiar, stay tuned. Hello fellow mushroom people and welcome to today's video where I want to talk about tropes that are an immediate turn off for me. So whenever they appear in a book, I'm just very bummed out and it may lead me to putting down the book and never picking it up again. I will do another video where I talk about the tropes that I love, so I will keep it balanced between the negatives and the positives. But I want to start with the negatives. Because I just recently picked up Gear Breakers by Zoe Hanamikuta, and it had an interesting concept and an interesting world, and I was very thrilled to read this book. And it had this number one angry YA protagonist, and this is the first trope I want to talk about, which is one that has killed so many books for me. I'm saying angry YA protagonist, I mean this type of female protagonist that's most prevalent in YA fiction from what I have seen. They are in their teen years and they're just figuring out the world, and they are so angry at everything, and most of them have gone through some kind of trauma and their life sucks and everyone's an idiot, and the guy they're probably ending up with is an idiot as well, and yeah, they have this constant bickering. They can't say anything positive about anything. Maybe they have this relative or this old friend, they're probably dead. They were the only good thing in their life, and when they died, everything went to hell, and now life sucks, and they have to let everyone know that life sucks. And I don't like this character archetype. They are so annoying for me to read, because I would like to think of myself as a person who's not that negative all the time. And whenever I come across this character, it's just that they bring such negativity into the story that it makes it hard for me to keep on reading and to enjoy the story, because they are the voice that we're following most of the time. And I want to read a story that's fun and not a story that's tormented by this person being so pissed off all the time, and I just can't stand those protagonists. So Gear Breakers has been getting better. The protagonist did not make me put down the book, but it might as well have. I can name a few YA books that I've put down this year alone, which had this kind of character, and that made it hard for me to enjoy the book. So I think that trope is definitely high up on the list of tropes that I don't like, and it's not... So you might say, why do you pick up a YA book? I don't mind YA, and I don't want to trash on YA, because not every story has this kind of character. There's a lot of YA protagonists that I really like, that I enjoy to read, but they're not angry. So the second trope that I don't like to read about is more of a romance trope, I think, and that is a difference in power in a relationship. Mostly it's the successful, established man and the inexperienced, innocent woman, and sometimes there is an age difference, not all of the time, but they come together and they form a relationship, and he is doing his business things and she is a woman. I don't like that. I want my relationship partners to be equals and to have the same level of experience, I think. And I sometimes, I don't know. So I was going to the so I was visiting a musical a few years back when things were allowed to happen outside, with my mother, and that one was Pretty Woman. And Pretty Woman basically is about a guy who is rich and has a job, and then there's this woman. She's pretty and she's a prostitute, which is not bad, but then she ends up in the relationship with this guy, and she finds out that she can be more than that, and she stops working as a prostitute. But in the end, she doesn't really accomplish anything of her own. I think in the end she's like, oh yeah, I know it can be so much better, and I think I know that I can do all those things by myself, but we never see her do that. And so her whole story arc kinda is just her being with the guy who sees something in her that she is better than how she sees herself. And there's so many other stories where there is this girl who is just a person, and then along comes the guy who is a great guy, and he shows her that she can be more and that she is born to be a star or whatever. And I don't like that. It's annoying. I want my characters to, I mean, of course they can have help and characters who tell them that they can do more than they do, but I want them to accomplish those things by themselves and not through another character who is probably the male love interest. I don't know, I just don't like those differences in power in a relationship, and I don't like to read about them. So the next trope that I really don't like is the super talented main character, also known sometimes as a Mary Sue or a Gary Stu in the male case. So those characters, they can do everything, and they will be the ones who accomplish everything very fast, and they're just super talented and super great. I take, for example, Detective Conan, or I think it's called Case Closed in English, which is about this boy detective, and he's so smart. And I mean, there are some people who are the same level of smart as he is, but at the end of the day, he's the one solving the case all the time. Another thing that comes to mind is The Mentalist, which is a TV series. But you have this police department, and then you have the guy who can read people, and he joins the police force and he solves all of the cases for them. And it's so annoying because that makes all of the other characters useless. And I think that's the thing that bums me out the most, having all those interesting characters, and those stories have them, but they become useless because the main character is the one solving all the things and doing all the stuff and always being there when stuff goes down, which makes the other characters feel less like characters and more like just plot devices for the main character to do something. A recent book that I read comes to mind, and that is Iron Prince, or The Iron Prince. But oh God, I can't recall the authors. This is a kind of lit RPG book, and I've read the first third of the book. It's like 900 pages long, so I've read quite a bit of it. And it has a main character who is not great at everything. He starts out at the bottom, and he's always like, I suck, because they have this kind of computer system that tells them their stats. So he is very bad at speed, durability, all the stuff. He has very bad stats, and all the other people have better stats than him. But he can still keep up. So even though we're told that he sucks, he never sucks. And I don't mind a character not sucking, but it's just that we're supposed to believe that he comes from the very bottom and has to fight his way up. And I always got the feeling that that was not the case, that even though they told us that he wasn't good, that he was good because he could think on his feet and he would fight. So in the beginning he fights against another person who has very good stats and he can keep up with her. So it's not like he gets beaten up in a horrible way. And I just don't like this character trope because that makes all the other characters not that important most of the time. So the next trope that I don't like is another one that's mostly found in romance, and that is the bad boy. So the bad boy is, in most stories that I've read, the bad boy is the one who gets the girl, and the normal good guy, he's just not that exciting, and if I chose him, I would spend my life having a safe environment, but I would not go on adventures. And I don't think that's how women talk, but you get what I mean. So the bad boy is the exciting one, the thrilling one, the one who has the best sex, probably. And it's the guy I would never pick because he is not reliable usually, and the other guy, who is probably a normal person and has a stable job and is not one who is abusive, is the obvious choice. Pick that guy. He's way better, please. The next trope on my list is the hidden royalty. So this is usually the story is going its course and things happen, and then it turns out one of the characters has been a prince all along. And everyone is like, wow. I don't think I've read that many stories with this trope, but I think you can just expand the hidden royalty thing to their parents were a very important thing. So I think the one that I have to think of is not a book, but the most recent Star Wars trilogy. And the main character, Rey, in the second movie, she gets told that her parents were nobody special. And I have to say I really like that, because not everyone on this planet has parents that are special. And usually in those fantasy science fiction stories, it turns out that the main character had some very, very important parents, and that they were destined to do great things from the start because their parents did as well. So let's get back to Star Wars. In the third movie in this trilogy, we find out that even though Rey's parents weren't great, her grandparents were. So all the thing about her parents were not important is kind of thrown away in favor of her having great ancestors anyways. And I don't like that. Let people just be themselves without having the greater parents, like the kings of old and the Skywalkers or whatever and all that stuff. I don't want to see it. I want people who come from nothing and are just good because they put themselves through a lot and get the power by themselves, and not because their parents are the ancestors of super great gods or whatever. The next trope on my list is everything falls in place. And by that I mean, in the end, everything gets resolved in a good way. So I don't hate good endings. I like a happy ending, so I don't mind everything being fine in the end. What I'm talking about is that, so you have the last chapter and the big bad is slain, and then you get the epilogue. And in the epilogue, all the other conflicts that have been prevalent in the whole story, so throughout the book, get solved as well, just in a sentence. So, for example, the kingdom the story takes place in, it has always had this monarchy, and then you have the last prince who has been one of the good guys, and he's like, oh no, the monarchy is stupid. And then they implement democracy in the very last chapter, and everyone's happy because it helps solve the poverty in all the slums as well, because they found a field of cows they can feed the people to. You get what I mean. I just want the conflicts to be dealt with in a way that actually handles the conflicts and not just solves them in a sentence in the last chapter, because that makes them meaningless to the story and not that interesting. The last trope I want to talk about, I think it's actually two tropes, and the first one is the misunderstanding, and the second one is the liar revealed. So I think both of those tropes are the kind that sprinkle in some internal third act conflict. So in the misunderstanding trope, you, for example, have those lovers who are just so cute together, and then one of them sees the other person with their sister and they give them a peck on the cheek, and they of course assume that's their affair, and oh no! And of course they make up in the end and everything will be peachy in the end. But you have to have that small conflict again to, just for the sake of it, that we can get some drama, we can have some character walking through the streets crying, it's raining, we hear a sad song in the background. I don't need this, I don't want this. The other one is the liar revealed. And for example, we have a spy joining the rebellion just to go against all that they do. And of course they warm up to their cause. And in the end it gets revealed that they have been spying for the country's tyrant all along. And but they haven't submitted their report in over a week. And of course they go against the king as well and support everything the rebels do. But we have to have this conflict where they get thrown out because they're evil, and then they come back and save the day, and they will be like, oh, you're back, you haven't been evil after all, and everything is peachy in the end. But we have to have this third act conflict that is just because they and I don't like those tropes because they are not real conflicts. They are kind of those conflicts that are made up for the sake of conflict, especially the misunderstanding one, which is the most stupid thing, and I don't want to read it about it ever again. The liar revealed, I can take it, but I don't need it, and just keep them out of my books, please. So that's all the tropes that I want to talk about today. So do you hate any of those tropes? Would you like to never see them again in your life? Or are you like, what the hell? It's the best trope ever. You're stupid. Yeah, but just leave a comment and comment on your not so well liked tropes. I would love to read about them. And with that said, thank you for watching. Consider liking and subscribing, and I hope to see you again next time.